It's 3 steps to keep in order when you're doing most things, and that is to seek practice, then seek feedback, then and only then seek competition. Quite often, one of the problems I have when I try to find somebody who's new into game development is they want to jump straight into that competition phase, which includes doing anything as a business and includes doing things in areas where they may or may not get awards or recognition. But that the first 2 things you need to do before you stand a chance at competition, because people you're competing against have, is first seeking out practice, then seeking out feedback, then seeking out competition. And by practice, I really just mean literally any chance at all to make sure that you're doing it. You're doing it consistently, you're doing it steadily, you're doing it. You're getting in the time, because so many of the basic errors that we're going to run into in anything, game development, of course, what I work with people on, but this applies to many other fields, writing, singing, you name it, various things. The first kind of errors you're going to run into are pure beginner errors that you can catch on your own, or that you're going to work your way through just the process of trying to just follow steps and do it at all. And then until you've worked out those wrinkles, no one's going to really give you feedback, because there's still too much wrong with it to usefully give feedback. And that's not anything wrong with you. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. That's because you haven't done enough of it. That's because step 1 was to seek practice before seeking feedback. Now, once you've got some practice in, that's where it begins to happen, is you begin to strengthen up in some areas. But inevitably, everybody has some areas where they're kind of not seeing where they're getting it wrong. They're kind of hitting plateaus in various little areas. They've got some opportunities where they could grow, but have kind of gotten comfortable. That's where seeking feedback, that second thing to search for after practice, becomes useful. That's, again, where I see a lot of people make the mistake where they'll go from, they put some practice time in, so they try to jump straight into competition. And the problem is that when they show their project to people, when they show it to strangers, when they show it to peers, when they show it to others, it's not seeking how they're going to improve it, how they're going to fill in, what they're going to do differently. It's instead seeking just awareness, thinking that if they just put their practice output in front of enough people, it's going to do well for them. There's still a gap there in the middle, and that is that seeking feedback. And that can come from a variety of vectors. That can certainly come from the crowds in some cases, as long as it's a supportive crowd, as long as people who understand where you're at in your progression. They're not trying to compare it to things in the competitive sphere. Or more often, it tends to come from someone who's a mentor, someone who's experienced, someone who's a teacher, professor, someone who's an advisor, whatever it is. Somebody who can look at it and whose expertise is getting used to seeing what sort of feedback you need to course correct you and get you back on track. And then that's where, after you've got enough practice, you've got enough seeking feedback, then and only then does it make sense to jump into the sphere of competition, which again could be commercial releases, could be trying to seek awards, whatever it might be, press coverage. It's also a matter of competition because of the high amount of people who want their projects covered in poor ratio to the number of places that are able to cover them, or at least those that have any significant amount of eyeballs. And so those are kind of the things that we some people overlook those first 2 steps. This video is about reminding that before seeking competition and whatever it is, first seek practice, then seek feedback, then seek competition. And I'll throw just kind of another case, because then I know game development is what I tend to focus on, because it's my sphere professionally as a trainer. Same thing absolutely applies to speaking, where in terms of public speaking, when I talk about practice, it's the sort of thing where pretty famously someone might give 100, 200 small talks, not enormous talks, but talks, before they're getting paid to speak, right? Because for someone to become a paid speaker, there's sort of a transition in the middle there of speaking a lot for practice, any venue that'll take them, any chance they can, groups, parties, events, chatting on YouTube could count as practice speaking, which is different from seeking feedback, which again would be involved talking to someone who's a professional paid speaker, someone who's a speaking coach, whatever. And then third part would be then seeking competition in terms of trying to land keynote speaking gigs, trying to get meaningful honorariums from organizations that are able to support that sort of thing. But anyway, seek practice, seek feedback, then and only then seek competition. That's it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll have another video for tomorrow.